Hello everybody, Adam Main Man Carey here, coming to you from my established home of residence and my wrestling cave, as you can see here, and we are trying something different, y'all. So I have heard a lot of people asking about bringing back Hype Wrestling Radio, and obviously a lot's changed since the last time I've done a Hype Wrestling Radio. It's a whole different era. And I figured if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it on a test-per-test basis to see what works. So what I'm going to do today, y'all, is I'm going to attempt to put something together to see how this flows, see if this makes sense, maybe bring a video element to it, and I'm going to review a episode of NWA Worldwide Wrestling from January of 1987. So as I do this, you're going to notice, obviously, I'm going to try to have to get the audio lined up. You may hear just a little bit of just a little loud at one point to try to get the audio to where it makes sense, to where you can still hear a little bit of this without me getting a copyright strike. But we're going to do this, and we're going to see how it goes. I'm going to talk about it, give you my opinions on the product at the time, give you my opinions perhaps on the product this time, try to stay on task and see how this goes. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and set this up. Before I set this up, let me say the NWA in '87 was a particularly different time in the wrestling business. Obviously, the transition to Ted Turner land had not happened, of course. A lot of things coming and going. Dusty was still at the helm at that time, so I know Jim Crockett Memorial Cup was coming up at this point. Obviously, WrestleMania was coming up, and those two were quote-unquote in competition with one another. So I have not watched this. I have not even prepared for this. So you're going to hear me talking about this as I do this. I want this to be as natural as possible, right? So when I go back and edit this, which I may or may not, you can kind of get a feel for if you like this or not, how you feel about it. I feel like I know a lot about a little bit about a lot. So as I do this, I want to hear exactly what you think, how it comes across. So let's go ahead and add this video and see how it goes. So let me adjust that. Okay, let's keep it right about there so you can still hear it. Let me bring this over here. Okay, so what you're seeing right there, this is NWA Worldwide Wrestling. That is the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez, who is an eclectic character to say the least. If you have not met Manny, Manny is a character. He is a walking gimmick, a real tough guy, awesome individual. Met him once, didn't talk to him much, but I've just heard the stories like a lot have. He's just got a lot of opinions. There's number one, Paul Jones, another interesting character who obviously was a well-known manager, but he was a hell of a hand and a wrestler back in the day. Paul Jones would have a lot of success wrestling beforehand, obviously. So what you're seeing right here, I believe this match, if I'm not mistaken, is against Ricky Morton. So obviously Paul Jones being a bad guy manager, a heel manager, as you would call it. And there is Ricky Morton. So Ricky Morton is still wrestling to this day, and to be quite honest with you, he does a dang good job at it. Him and Robert Gibson just recently won the new version of the NWA World title. I say the tag team titles. I say the new version. Let me stretch this over here. That was just bugging me. So this particular match I have not seen. If I have, it's been quite a while. But again, this was leading up to a very interesting time in the business. Remember, WrestleMania 3 would change things. WrestleMania 1 was groundbreaking in the WWF at the time. WrestleMania 2, Vince tried to outdo himself. And then, of course, WrestleMania 3 comes within 2 or 3 months of this. There's obviously one of the best-known referees of all time. Tommy Young was an innovator. And if you can call a referee an innovator, he certainly was. He was by far my favorite referee to watch in the ring, just because watching how he moves in the ring, knows exactly where to be, stays out of the way. There's something you can kind of keep an eye on here, because he really does, he really does add to the match. Well, a good referee doesn't take away from the match, and he adds to the match in a way where he's right there to call the pins, and all that. So obviously a tie-up here. Wrestling was so much different back at this time, just because big moves mattered. And I don't want to be that guy who's saying, oh, back in my day, wrestling was this. Well, it was. But again, you're talking, I was 5 years old at the time. And I didn't watch a lot of the NWA at this time. But I'm obsessed with it at this point because of how much... Oh, wow, look at that. Ricky Morton apparently going for a press slam on... I didn't expect that to happen, to be quite honest with you. Ricky Morton going for a press slam on Manny Fernandez, and Manny's going to regroup, take a powder, and talk about it with Paul Jones here, because he was not prepared for that whatsoever. I don't think anybody was. Ricky Morton trying to go for a press slam just seemed extremely odd. Oh, we got some kung fu, and you see them mocking each other just to get a rise from the crowd. Obviously, Manny was an extremely talented performer. Ricky Morton got a pretty nice push as an individual wrestler, and I kind of feel like Ricky was the chosen one out of that tag team just because of, I mean, they were both charismatic, but Ricky had something. Again, his run with Ric Flair, those matches were awesome. So, watching these two go at it's pretty fun at this day and age because Ricky Morton, I'm shocked they didn't throw the belt on him. I mean, at this point, you got to think that they put the belt on Ronnie Garvin, with all due respect, but, you know, Ricky was probably as close as it could come. There's the karate, the kung fu, if you will, and these two going back and forth, and that's telling the story because you got to remember that crowd work and psychology was just so important back at this time. And watching Paul Jones out there trying to get his guy squared away. Again, I have not seen this match. If I have, I don't remember it. But it's interesting to see these guys go at it. So let's take a look and see where we go from here. I know this particular event, I know Rick Rude was still in the NWA at this time. Rick Rude and Manny Fernandez were former tag team champions, maybe U.S. tag team champions. I can't quite recall which belts they had at the time, but I always enjoyed Rick Rude. And what's funny is, as we watch this match, and I kind of go off into Never Never Land and talk about whatever, Rick Rude, when he originally got his start, 83, 84, if you go back and watch some of Mid-South Wrestling, which I would like to do, in this format if it works, it's fascinating what Rick Rude become, and you can obviously see, I'm not saying he took steroids, but what he become. But again, watching a little guy do these moves, and what I mean by little guy, back in the day, in the era of the big man, a lot of guys had trouble, you know, working with smaller guys and giving this much offense just because, again, you're talking about, you know, the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez was not a small dude at all. He was a big dude. So to give that kind of offense and whatnot, and again, the whole power slam thing, I go back to that. I still can't fathom what in the hell he was thinking. But, yeah, just really cool to see these guys in here. I'll say that again just because, again, a lot of the matches you saw back in the day, and if you're not familiar with this product, go find it, because a lot of the matches you saw back in the day, you had your World Championship Wrestling on TBS, which was a lot of job matches. You would see the TV title defended in a 20-minute time limit capacity. Arn Anderson, king of the 20-minute time limit, where he would just squeak by. And now Ricky Morton playing Ricky Morton. Ricky Morton was the best at selling, the best at just making guys look good. And look at that, off the apron. Big men back at this time. Remember, won't be long, in 88, Bam Bam Bigelow comes in the NWA. Sting's here. Sting's starting to get over. Sting's, you know, starting to get his stride after his run, obviously, with Jim Hellwig, the Ultimate Warrior. But just, I'm just taking in what's happening here. The Nasty Heel not allowing Ricky Morton back in the ring. And obviously Tommy Young's right there pleading with him. Again, just the little things, right? Just the crowd at this point. And again, I can't hear the audio. I know you can, because this again is a test just to see how this works. But I would imagine the crowd. Oh, look at that! There we go. Oh man. So Ricky fighting from the outside to get back in the ring at least, and Manny Fernandez not having any of it. Right back on top, and off the ropes. There's a nice back elbow, and again, the whole Manny Fernandez and somebody. I had a conversation with somebody not too long ago whether Manny Hernandez was a better face or heel, and I think heel. I do. But there's that infamous knee Manny Fernandez gave. If you don't know what I mean by infamous knee, that knee literally almost ended the life of, what's his name? God, I can't remember his name in Puerto Rico after Bruiser Brody passed away. The Invader, I believe Invader number 2 maybe. Again, don't crucify me. I'm I got some knowledge, but I don't know everything, so. We are going to take a commercial break here on the video, but we'll be right back because we don't have commercials, I do not believe. If we do, then I'll be happy to talk about them too. This video was sent to me, so let's see where we go here. I have not seen this, so. The cliffhangers of the day really made you wanted to come back, and we are back without a commercial, but the cliffhangers, when you would go to commercial in these types of shows, Worldwide has, and there's Rick Rude, just as I spoke, I did not know he was going to come out. I knew they were tag teaming around this time, so Rick Rude, just so good. Rick Rude was such an amazing wrestler, just had the body, had the charisma. Watching Rick Rude sell an atomic drop is just an amazing thing. Now Ricky Morton, under the throat. Ref, you might want to check that. Yeah, referee Tommy Young telling him stay off the throat, and Ricky Morton just doing whatever he can. Now again, Rick Rude and number 1 Paul Jones on the outside. I'm kind of surprised that Robert Gibson's not on the outside watching Ricky Morton's back here. I have to presume he's there, but then again, it's TV tape. Into the pole, man. Oh, goodness. And look at Rude. Look at Rude. Oh, man. Get in his face, Rude. Tommy Young might want to get out there. Again, this is so good. Oh, Rude looks like he pulled something out there. That didn't look good. Notice he's limping to the other side there. I wonder what happened there. He might have already wrestled earlier. He may be banged up as it is, I have to presume, but man, he looks like he might have pulled something over there, giving a little bit too much jaw jacking. So Ricky Morton going to try to get back in the ring again. What an opening match to have. If you're watching TV at home and this match comes on and you're a wrestling fan, you're automatically going to, want to see this. Of course, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson were as hot as any tag team in the mid-'80s. At night lately, I've been watching, like I said earlier, a lot of Mid-South, and watching the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express in Mid-South Wrestling was pretty cool at the time, because obviously the sex appeal of certain wrestlers was, you want to talk about the ladies in the Attitude Era. Let me just tell you what, you watch some of the music videos from the early to mid-'80s, Magnum TA, it's just fascinating how certain promoters knew their audience and they wanted the teenage girls and all that. Wait, there's Robert Gibson. And oh man, what a finishing move. A DDT into more like I don't even know what to call that, but now Robert Gibson's had enough and he's getting, the hell with him, he's gone. Why wasn't Robert down there earlier when Rick Rude was putting the bad mouth on him? He was limping up a storm though. He must have been, and again, guys at this time worked through injuries, and there was a lot of injuries. And again, I do believe we're going to have a disqualification here. And Ricky Morton's going to win this thing. Robert Gibson getting back in there. So if you take a look, these two guys are, well, now wait a second. Yeah, that's a disqualification. That, to me, again, I can't hear the audio, but to me, that's a disqualification on Robert Gibson. Now, Robert Gibson jumps in the ring and interferes. He didn't touch anybody, but he interfered. Why was he? What was he pointing at? I have a feeling that was a mistimed something. He came a little late. Now we're going to talk about the Jim Crockett Memorial Senior Memorial Cup. If you have the WWE Network, not a sponsor, but if you have the WWE Network, some of the Memorial Cups are on there. You know where to find them if you want them unedited. The Memorial Cups were really good back in the day, just because of the sheer size of the cards. I mean, goodness gracious, we had probably 22 tag teams in it. And again, it was 2 nights. So Greensboro Coliseum, the site of so many historic moments for Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, all the guys in the 80s. You want to talk about historic. Oh man, Nikita Koloff. So Nikita was TV champion at this point, I do believe, yeah. So I know he has a belt there. Again, I can't hear what he's saying. So Nikita Koloff is one of those guys who could have been bigger, I think. Just here's my thing, like, and there's the Road Warriors, awesome. My thing is that Nikita Koloff had to turn face because of what happened, the unfortunate incident that happened to Magnum TA. When Nikita Koloff was at his hottest as a heel, I don't know how much longer that could have went, but I think there was still life in that whole thing, just because Russia was so hated. Here's the Road Warriors with Precious Paul Ellering behind them. Obviously, Paul was a great wrestler as well, but transitioning into a managerial role into the mid-80s, around 85, 84, when the Road Warriors became a thing, and really, and you could tell there's the trophy from what I presume last year when they won it. Again, I cannot hear audio on this just because of how this is recording. You want to talk about 2 guys who had the professional wrestler look. You're looking at it right here. Road Warrior Hawk and Road Warrior Animal. And the silent but violent mentality of Paul Ellering. So when he spoke, you knew what he said meant something. Oh, there's Dusty. There's Dusty with the nice shades there. Dusty like he just rolled out of bed with his little hairdo there on top. You want to talk about promo after promo after promo for Dusty Rhodes. Dusty could talk about anything and get it over. You could literally put and again, just YouTube the commercials that Dusty did. And Dusty did so many different commercials for car dealerships and such, just because he was a promoter. He promoted himself, he promoted his business, he promoted his life, he promoted everything. So, Dusty Rhodes talking, obviously, undoubtedly talking about whose fanny he's going to whip next here. Whenever Dusty got fired for bleeding on TBS with a heel Road Warriors team, it was really unheard of to think that Dusty Rhodes was no longer a part of the NWA. And him going to his rival, which was the WWF at the time, you think about it, that had to be very humbling for Dusty. And I've never heard Dusty really talk, maybe he has, but it had to be very humbling to go from a perennial contender for any and every belt to literally, he was a mid-carder in the WWF. And obviously Vince McMahon, being who he is, would have never put Dusty in the main event no matter what. But again, different product. You take this man, one of the greatest of all time, and put him in polka dots, and obviously the polka dots work. Dusty can make polka dots work. Dusty can make anything work. But just Dusty, you talk about Dusty Rhodes and all he did for the wrestling business. Oh, there's Barry Windham. Oh boy, a fresh-faced Barry Windham. Is that the U.S. title he has there? Might be the TV title. U.S. TV title. Ah, Shaska Watley. So, Pez Watley, you want to talk about a character. So, this is after, so, I presume Pez got his head shaved at this point. Pez Watley, another guy. Again, just an unbelievable attraction. Never got the due that he deserved. What a match this is. And watching guys like Pez Watley wind up going to the big back body drop. Whoa. Watching guys like Pez Whatley go to the WWF and you see them as enhancement talents, as guys who help, you know, make the superstars look as great as they did. Pez was a true character, and I know the Crockett's liked Pez Whatley from what I've heard. Of course, I don't know. I have not heard it straight from them, but you just know Pez Whatley. And now I think about it, I wonder what led to Pez leaving. Pez was around for quite a while in the wrestling business in general. Pez would come back in the mid-90s to WCW and was doing work with them, and competitive work at that. So, Pez is showing out on the outside. He's not happy. Excuse me, Shaska Whatley, who obviously he embraced his roots at the time. And we're talking about a thick individual. He was a little piece of iron, wasn't he? So, again, these you have to think about what the Crockettts were thinking, because we've already seen Georgia Championship Wrestling pretty much go by the wayside at this point. When Vince bought them out and then sold it back, Ole never recovered. So Ole's here at this point. The Horsemen are running wild, and seeing Vince lead up to WrestleMania 3 and knowing what Vince wanted to do with the wrestling business, it's rather fascinating to think that WrestleMania 3 literally would change everything, and you saw it changing from the old guard to the new guard, because WrestleMania 3, and I've even said this, I know we're watching an NWA show, but for the historic factor, if you watch WrestleMania 3, you will notice midway through that the show, I'd say right when Macho and Steamboat kind of get in there, the show changes from the older individuals, and I say older, the golden talent, to more of an upbeat, it transitions to a whole nother era. And I would even go so far to say is that Hogan, I know I'm going to get heat for this, but Hogan wasn't truly over. He was over, okay? Hogan didn't hit that next level, let me put it that way, until he went and worked with Andre. Oh, that was a huge bump. My goodness. Andre did something for Hogan that I don't think anybody else could have done for Hogan, right? And maybe, just maybe, that's what Bob Backlund was missing as a champion. Again, different time, but in the 80s, you had the next best up and coming, and they would work with the champion, and then you would run, again, 3-4 shows against each other sometimes, maybe longer, in the early 80s, and then you would transition to the next, and obviously the champ would, you know, work with them, and maybe even, you know, you send that guy packing and then bring on the next guy. So Shaska Whatley doing what he has to do to get back on top here, and another big back body drag. Shaska Whatley is he's a thick gentleman, you know, thick. But again, not height wise. I mean, I'd say Shaska's maybe 6 foot, maybe. Yeah. He's biting him. Oh, man. He's biting him. Goodness gracious. Yeah, he had his head shaved by Jimmy Valiant already here. Again, the timeline, a little fuzzy from time to time. Oh, jeez. Let me tell y'all something. It was a normal occasion for that railing to get pushed into fans back in the day, whether it be Vince's railing or the blue, hey, separate yourself. Because again, the wrestlers were coming through the fans at this point, so what an interactive environment. And if you find some of the older fan cams that got caught in there, look at that. Goodness gracious. I don't know, man. It's just still surprising to see, like, Shaska Whatley just brought Barry Windham in from the outside, right? So you can use this as an example when you see guys like Marco Stunt, Jungle Jack Perry, and all that, Jungle Boy. Little guys, smaller guys, excuse me. Smaller guys were allowed to succeed back in the day. And this is a great example of that, right? Like, they weren't all 7-foot horses. And here's what you have to remember. A big guy has to have a little guy to work with. Otherwise, all you've got is a room of big guys, right? So what makes somebody stand out? It's the next in line, right? So if you see a crowd of 8 people and you see a 7'5" individual and everybody else 6'4", that 7'5" individual is gonna stand out. So look at this. Oh, just a classic move there. Feet on the ropes. He's just getting up. What these ropes here, they're moving. I don't know why. Yeah. So getting that, and again, this is where if you have a good manager, which Paul Jones managed him at this point, so I don't know why Paul Jones isn't out there. Maybe him and Paul, I don't think they've separated at this point. Again, we're just transitioning from 86. Very hot time in the business. Especially coming from the Horsemen and all that, so. Surprise. This is where you would have Paul Jones grab his feet out there, right? I'm enjoying a Monster Zero here. Peppered him. Look at that. Peppered him. Those are nice. But, Barry Windham ain't having none of it. Barry Windham hadn't been back from the WWF at the time. Not too terribly long, I don't think. In his run as the U.S. Express. Which, what I enjoyed about the U.S. Express is that they didn't even pretend. Like, Barry leaves, they just plug another tall, blonde-headed individual in his place in Dan Spivey. Like, they didn't even try. They don't even think they acknowledged he left. They just plugged another guy in, and Vince is like, find me another blonde-haired guy, you know? And how tall is he? All right, that'll work. All right, pal. I didn't even try to, like, explain, you know? Like, sometimes, like, nowadays, if somebody leaves a company, that, it's everywhere. Back then, yeah, they didn't even try to cover that. I mean, they just plug somebody in there and just keep going, right? So, going back to the face, right? Okay, yeah, there we go. Get him, Shaska. And to the outside. This is where a good manager comes into play. And look at that. And there are no mats at this time. That kid wants to take a shot at Shaska in the ring there. He's upset Barry's on the ground. This is where a good manager will come in handy. You know, get a good manager to take the knees out. Love the broadcasters at ringside. I think that just adds something to it. And good groups who still do that, it makes a difference. It does. The product. There we go. He's got him. 1, 2. Look at him pushing up. Up. There we go. Again, simple, effective, but also you notice how he bridged to get that pinfall. Very nicely done. I like that. That was actually enjoyable. Barry with his Cyndi Lauper hair. Yeah, hey, he might have had the tights. Pez, I'm not saying he did, but he might have. We're going to find out here. Let's take a look at the replay here. As you can see, Shaska is apparently paralyzed on the rope there, and Shaska tries to hold on, but again, watch this here. Up, he's like, watch him bridge right here, okay? Can't tell, look at him bridge up. That's the little things, folks. That's what makes that pin work, right? We're going to have the World Heavyweight Champion here with us, folks, and obviously, an amazing promo is coming up with Ric Flair. Ric Flair wearing, is that a Los Angeles Lakers polo? Sure appears to be. Yeah, okay. Flair has been a fan of more organizations than I think I've ever seen anybody. I'm a Florida Gator, so he was a Gator at one point. I remember that. He's also been a fan of the Volunteers, the Georgia Bulldogs. Flair just knows how to, like, Flair is that guy, right? Flair is that guy who would kiss up to a damn bully ant if he had to just to get over. Like, yeah. Boy, Flair is going off here, ain't he? What a belt. What a belt. The transition now, the 10 pounds of gold was so nice, though. The original NWA belt, not original, but the NWA belt that preceded this. But the 10 pounds of gold was so pretty in so many different ways because it looked special, right? I'll tell you what was garbage. The original WWF belt. That was garbage. Boy, it was so bad. Like, and I know the historians and the old school guys like myself are supposed to love everything old school. That's just not how it is. That Bob Backlund garbage. Boy, was that bad. I wish I could get a picture of that up here. Um, Maybe I can here. Let's see. Because that one, I'll tell you what, the original WWF belt was so bad. It was so bad just because I don't know who looked at it and thought it was a good idea. But the belt Bob Backlund carried, so I'm not talking about the original. Like, let me see if I can find it here because this one. Okay, so this isn't the one I was originally talking about, but this will work. Let me see if I can add this in here. Oh, I come back and they're the Andersons, Ole and Arn. Very nice. So let me put this in here. Let me see if I can find this. This particular belt here. I'm gonna try this here. Yeah, we're playing around a little bit. We're trying some things, right? This belt here. Oops, that kind of went over everything, didn't it? That belt there, like, why would I wear something? Florida, literally, like, the state of Florida sticking out. Why? Like, I get it and all, but, like, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm literally crapping on something from the 50s, 60s and all that, but, like, what an ugly belt, right? Like, this particular belt here, that's an awful belt. We'll have to do maybe a show of belts one day, because that belt there, just hideous. And then the green belt that Backlund wore was so bad, but, you know, it is what it is. So, let me take that off there. In any event, Arn Anderson and Ole cutting those. I need me a evil, mean, and nasty shirt. I believe that's what I said. Yeah, I need one of those. I'm sure. Oh, Arn getting a little nude here to tell us what he thinks. Like, Arn Anderson, what a promo, man. And Ole is, what a curmudgeon he is, but Ole deserves a lot of credit. Ole, watch some NWA Georgia. There's a lot on YouTube, Daily Motion. You can find it. It's so good. Like, the talent that was there. Oh my God, I was watching a match the other day. Talking about Ted DiBiase and King Kong Bundy and Nikolai Volkov was getting around at the time. Oh, there we are. Oh boy, Boogie Woogie Jimmy Valiant. You want to talk about a transition? This guy here went from being like the sex appeal, in the 70s he was handsome, and he's a homeless man. He went into being this. He literally looks like he was asleep under a bridge before somebody woke him up and said, "Hey Jimmy, you want to come wrestle?" He looks like he's perpetually drunk. But if I walked around doing that, I would probably get tased. Like, what a change. But what a character, though, right? I mean, and he even got his hair cut, too. That's what the haircut match between him and Pez Watley came about. Oh, dear. Oh, boy. Is that Bill Dundee? That is. That's superstar Bill Dundee. Oh, you want to talk about it? Oh, yeah, Bill Dundee. Okay, and there's Barbarian on the outside. Well, this is good stuff, y'all. Again, you want to talk about a small guy? Bill Dundee was a small guy. I mean, Bill Dundee was the manager of William Regal in 93, 94. Which, I didn't know that until I was older. But he's a small guy. So, Bill Dundee got over in Tennessee. And, of course, he worked everywhere. But a great bumper. Great bumper. Really good. Bill Dundee's still out there working, I do believe. I think I saw he was doing something. But what a character Jimmy Valiant was. Goodness gracious. That beard probably smelled like pretzels and probably pale ale, I'd have to guess, right? You know what I miss? I miss the tights where you would pull them up to your nipples. Oh man! Now you don't lay a hand on the referee. That if that was Bill Dundee doing that, he'd be disqualified right now, obviously. Yeah, how do you? Yeah, just beg. Just beg that he stops. That's what I do. Now, Barbarian, you don't mess with Barbarian. I was watching the Barbarian's first few matches the other night. King Konga is what he went by, and he was teaming with. This was in Georgia, NWA Georgia. He was teaming with King Kong Bundy, and what a fascinating look and what a push he got coming in. Like, you don't want to mess with him. Like, very fascinating to go find if you want to watch some early Barbarian stuff. Barbarian, him and Haku were awesome together as the Faces of Fear. Look at that beard. Like, it looks like it's alive. Yeah. Grab those ropes there. Get it? Yeah, there you go. Punching. Punching. Well, now wait a second. Oh. Okay. So, back. Now he's choking him. He's obviously choking him. Back in the day when you could just grab a wrestler as a referee and just be like, hey, you can't do that. You can't punch somebody? As if nobody's been punching anybody tonight? Ah, there's a kick to the boiler, as they used to call it. Oh, man, there you go. That clap a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. I like to push my guy as I punch him. Push him. There you go. He's coming that sleeper. Oh, man. Some of my guys who did use the sleeper as a finish. There we go. I pushed him into Barbie. There's an elbow for the pin. My goodness. Yeah, now you got to deal with Barbarian now. Now, here's the main event right here, folks. Barbarian and Jimmy Valiant. Watch the leg twitch. Okay, you can tell how bad it is by the leg twitch, okay? Watch the leg twitch. Jimmy Valiant was one of the best at the leg twitch, which I still believe Vince got. Look at the leg. Look, it's twitching. Look. I still think that this man stole the leg twitch from Jimmy Valiant. I really do. Yeah, had to have. Yeah. So I'd pay to see that match, Barbarian and Jimmy Valiant. Jimmy Valiant was batshit crazy, but again, your standard TV match to set up for their matches with Barbarian right here. Jimmy Valiant, how much longer was he around? When did Jimmy Valiant leave? Jimmy Valiant left the NWA, I thought around 88. I thought. Let's find out. I know he has a wrestling school, if I'm not mistaken. He is still around, and I know Jimmy Valiant still does some awesome stuff with the business. Jimmy Valiant. Let's see here. Jimmy Valiant teamed with Hector Guerrero as Lasertron. I remember that. That's 88. He left probably around 89, believe it or not. He was there around 89. Good Lord. And Jimmy Valiant then went to the USWA and fought with Lawler. And then he's still doing indies. Just unbelievable that this, Jesus. Just look at some of his results. Wow. He still does autographs in indies. So, it's Wahoo McDaniels. Wahoo McDaniel, Snow S. Man, what was the deal with the Indian stereotype in the 70s and 80s, right? Chief J Strongbow was nothing but a fat old man by the time he hung it up, right? And people still, all he did was guys here and all this here, and people still loved him. But like he looked like if my grandfather cosplayed, right? Nobody's scared of my grandfather. But give him some feathers, man. Yeah. All right, looks like the Warlord coming in here. Oh no, excuse the hell out of me. That's the Road Warriors, and I can't hear it, so I'm sure I'm probably talking over Iron Man playing and Dusty. Oh shit, Jesus. Dusty, Nikita, who's who this is? Is that Ric Flair? My goodness. WSET 13. Wow. What a match this is gonna be. I'm gonna go home main event. Good Lord. So we got the Horsemen now. Whoa. You want to talk about, man. And here's the thing, y'all. Like, main events like this don't happen anymore. Because the problem is, I'm going to tell you about my problems with the wrestling business. The problem is that angles are so hot-shotted. You you build up an angle for a month maybe, right? And you never, I don't know what to say, because nowadays angles, there's no story behind it, and then the story's so convoluted and forced it means nothing. These guys, you believe they hated each other. Look at this. Look at Ric Flair. Yeah, shake his hand, sure, right? Oh well, that's excellent, right? That's just good stuff. Rick tries to shake the man's hand, and Animal just breaks it. That's fantastic. Look at Dusty over here. Look at Dusty. Oh boy, him and The Rock, Ole Anderson. Oh, poor Tully. What a cavalcade of workers. Arn Anderson, and Dusty Rhodes. Does it get any better? Paul Ellering gave him a pat on the back. This is a who's who. Look at Ole Anderson. But by the way, Ole Anderson here always looked like he was pushing 50 at all times, okay? But Ole was tough. And Ole did retirement matches all throughout his Georgia Championship Wrestling days. I've seen a few different shows where he's talking about his last match on this, and he's coming back, and he knew what to do because he knew people wanted to see him either as a face or a heel. And Arn Anderson or Ole Anderson as a heel, always better, but as a face, effective. Ironically effective. When I was in the wrestling business managing, I tried to turn face, and it just, nobody likes me. Nobody wants to cheer me. I mean, you know where your money's at, right? Nobody wanted to cheer me. I tried to sign a kid's balloon one time, and I popped it. Like, I'm turning you heel, right? So, an 8-man tag team match. Remember back at, I don't know if this time they had them or not, but back at this time, you had the triple, and if I'm not mistaken, yeah, the Road Warriors and Dusty were the 6-man tag team champions at the time, which was, if you hear some of the old timers talk about it, they were just ways to give them the belts. But again, we got 4-on-4 here. Just, wow. They're the Horsemen, man. And that's always going to be the original Horsemen to me. Yeah, Barry was good. Don't get me wrong. When Barry turned here in Jacksonville with Lex and joined the Horsemen, that put him in a whole nother echelon. But, yeah, this is so good. If this works out, y'all, I'm ready to review old episodes of Raw. Anything. So, who would go away? This is exciting. Who would go away? I just watched Hawk get punched in the nuts by Ric Flair. Why would I go away? Look at this. Look at that suplex, y'all. Why would I go anywhere? I want Ric Flair to get his ass kicked right now. If you go to commercial right here, I'm going to be sitting just like this. Because I want to see more. Like, I don't feel that way now. I love wrestling, but I don't feel that way. And now, look at this. And the match was happening in real time. That's the thing. When they came back in real time. I'm not saying they don't do that anymore, but here's the thing. There are spots and rest holds to perform in front of a camera. This time, they were performing in front of a crowd, y'all. Live gate was the business, okay? Your live crowd was what paid your bills. Now it's a whole different thing. Look at, he's choking him, ref. Count him. You ever notice when refs don't know what else to do, they just start counting? Think they're, like, they go to the grocery store and they can't get to the aisle, they just go to the person, 1, 2, 3. That's a blatant kick to the nuts. I don't think you can do that. Well, oh, Rick thought he's going to do something. Look at that. Oh, man. Watching Ric Flair powder. Just good stuff. And he, oh, man. I don't even want to talk about what he just said there about his wife. So Ric Flair is trying to talk him into somebody else getting to the ring? No? Yeah? No, yeah, okay. We got Animal. We missed that whole thing. I think I'd probably rather have Nikita at this point. So, yeah, Ric Flair was probably the best coward when it came to, and he took this bump here all the time. Like, oh my God. We're going to have to watch some of Ric Flair's TNA stuff just for the fun of it, just because why not, right? So, wow. Rick's just leaving. Rick just said the hell with it. No, he's coming back, of course. You talk about a guy. Now, well, Dusty's going to make sure of it. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. I'm talking about a guy, Ric Flair, who was in that plane accident and still able to perform at the level he did for so many years. Like, I still believe, if not for his health, Ric Flair he'd be wrestling somewhere. Because he wrestled after his retirement. I don't even know why he did that. And look at Animal. Animal's not even fazed by it. Look, not even fazed. Not once has he sold any of this. Ah, man. Tully Blanchard was an all-around wrestler, and I love Tully. And Tully before he became a Horseman is good stuff too. When he was looking for his perfect 10, yeah, in Georgia, it's good stuff. Fine. Look at it, just slapping him. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, that's okay. That's what a spot that is, right? And we're off the air. Looks like that's it. Wow. Look at that. Tell me you go off the air like this, there's not going to be a finish. And look at Dusty's name right there as a senior producer, Virgil. So, when this goes off the air, right, you're thinking to yourself, wow, what's going to happen next week, right? This is how Doug Dellinger, wow, who is the head of security. You talk about wanting to see more. So awesome. So that'll do it, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm hoping to do more of this. This is Hype Wrestling Video Radio, we're going to call it now. We're going to call it something. Hopefully, folks, you enjoy this. I hope this becomes something that I can bring more to you. And again, I do have a YouTube page as well, Hype is Here Collectibles, where you can see more of the figures that you see behind me. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Let me know. Give me your feedback. I do hope to see this, to hopefully do this again with you. Hopefully we can see some more exciting wrestling. And I do hope you all have a wonderful day.